really give too much of a hoot about special liveries, but for the second year in a row, there is one team who smashed it out of the Hard Rock Stadium. Kia ora, my name's Kimmy and I talk about Formula 1 in the world's second worst accent. And no, one of my 3 burning questions for this weekend's Miami Grand Prix isn't, will the Racing Bulls livery look as good on screen as it does in the promotional images? I just wanted to tell you all how much I love a car that looks like a ski jacket I would have begged my parents for when I was 7. No, I'm going to kick it off with a driver who's not even on the grid this year. Sergio Perez. Unless you've been living under a rock or I'm your only source of F1 news, shout out to my friends who watch me regularly and have no idea what the hell I'm talking about most of the time, then you know that Checo's been rumoured for one of the Cadillac seats since the rumblings of Andretti joining the grid started a few years back. This week, confirmation of the Mexico City Grand Prix' 3-year contract extension through to 2028 is interesting enough timing to push the overdrive button on those rumours. Not only is the Mexico City Grand Prix primarily funded by longtime Checo backer billionaire Carlos Slim and his business ventures, but Checo's also expected to show up this weekend in Miami. Now, granted, he might just be there to pick some fixtures and finishes for the brand new off-the-plans 4-bedroom condo he's recently signed on the dotted line for, taking the opportunity to have a chat with a few important people in the paddock along the way. But the fact that all of this coincides with Cadillac's Miami launch event on Saturday, well, it kind of does lead you down a certain path. So will we get a Checo announcement this weekend? They might not say it in as many words, but I imagine there'll be, at a bare minimum, some hint dropping. So, Mohammed bin Sulayem sucked it up and rehired Shalia and Rao, this time as advisor to the office of the FIA president. And for those of you who don't know who Rao is, she's a lawyer who was the interim secretary general for motorsport back in 2022 after Peter Beyer left to take up first an advisory role for the Audi entry and then moving into his current role as CEO of Racing Bulls. Rao is also the person who wrote the letter accusing MBS of sexism and bullying. There are also accusations that were made towards Rao herself over perceived favouritism towards Mercedes during the cost cap debacle, who she worked for as general counsel prior to her positions within the FIA. Rao's rehiring right around the time controversy is really ramping up around what drivers can and cannot say, whether that be their language or their position on certain aspects of the sport's governance, really says to me that MBS is just kind of scrambling to save whatever face he can. It was reported widely that Rao's exit from the FIA in 2023 came with confidentiality clauses on both sides, and that the complaint she laid was never actually investigated by the Ethics Committee. An Ethics Committee that I would like to remind you that bin Sulayem is now, as of earlier this year, entirely in charge of. So what this means is that from the outside, it looks like MBS is hiring someone who is critical of his own governance choices and management. And if that doesn't stink of PR bullshit, I don't know what does. And Rao might be the right person for the job. She's a very experienced motorsport lawyer who is registered to practice in both France and the UK and has experience working for the FIA in high positions. But even if she is going into the role with the hopes of reining MBS in and giving him a bit of a reality check around his own constant power grabbing moves, I think it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle. And Rao's first test is going to be these reported updates to Appendix B of the International Sporting Code, which apparently might be happening as soon as this weekend. Honestly, her first order of business, though, should be advising MBS on how to word his statements, because I am considering making improvements on Appendix B is probably not how you should frame the writing of the rules when you're already being slated by everyone with a keyboard and a microphone over your dictatorial antics. It's just a tiny suggestion. So if we do see an update in this space, I guess the question is, will it be around the loosening of the guidelines and actually listening to the people the FIA serves, or will it be more around sharpening up the wording to make it easier to stick drivers with a slam dunk fine? Speaking of slam dunks, subscribing to my channel and supporting women making motorsport content here on YouTube is a slam dunk win. Liking this video, well, it also tells YouTube that it should show you more of my videos in the future, so make sure you click it if you enjoy my stuff. Well, duh. But look, it's not such a dumb and obvious question, because as much as a lot of people out there are going to roll their eyes and go, a McLaren, obviously, not so sure. There is a number of factors this weekend that might throw a bit of a spanner in the works. One is it's a sprint weekend, and yes, that definitely plays into McLaren's hand because they're one of only 2 teams to have the same driver lineup as the last couple of years, and it's not like Aston Martin is going to be knocking on the door of the podium, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of drivers out there who have been vocal about still needing time to get a handle on their cars. But One of the most prominent one of them went out and won the last sprint race in China. And yeah, sure, China is a very unique track, but Lewis Hamilton has a bit of a history of cocking up his setups when he's got too much time to tinker. So I would say don't count him out just yet, even if it's just for the sprint. Because let's be honest, even if he does well in the sprint, he'll probably still f up his setup before qualifying. But then it's also possibly going to rain on Sunday, maybe even Saturday, and Miami's one of those tracks where spotters are just as useful as a rain radar. So there might be some mistakes when it comes to picking when the rain comes down. If it does, of course, because it might not. We've also got a step softer in the tyre compounds than last year, which hopefully should make the call to go for a 1-stop versus a 2-stop a little bit more marginal. And if it does rain, then as long as Max doesn't get screwed with an inconveniently timed safety car for the second year in a row or hits another bollard, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him return to the top step of the rostrum. And I'm not going to make any crazy statements here and say that we might see a Williams or an Alpine or an Isaac Hadjar on the podium. I do think that's going to be fought between the big four teams, but I'm also not counting out 1 or 2 surprises, and I wouldn't be shocked if we came out of this weekend with Max Verstappen closing in on the lead of the championship and maybe even taking it. He's only 12 points behind Oscar and 2 behind Lando after all, and I wouldn't be surprised if those two have a little bit of argy-bargy this weekend. So that's it. That's my 3 burning questions for the 2025 Miami Grand Prix. What are yours? Are you wondering if Margot Robbie will show up in full Barbie getup to sit in the racing bulls? Do you think the Ferrari's going to split in half along that cut and shut of a livery? Do you think Cadillac's going to spend all of Thursday and Friday dropping Checo hints only to announce Pato O'Ward and Valtteri Bottas? Let me know in the comments and I'll leave you with a final thought. Yuki Tsunoda. That's it. That's the thought. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to support me with cold hard cash or just want to get email when I post new videos, then the link to my Patreon is down in the description box. Join for free. You'll still get the emails. I'm still on the mission to get to 1,000 subscribers before my channel turns 2 on August 21st, so please share it with any of your F1 friends who you think might enjoy my videos, and thanks so much to all of you who are regularly down there in the comments sharing your thoughts and opinions. I really love reading them. Unless you're that freak who called me old and asked if I could parallel park. Fucking weirdo.